Okay. Hello, welcome back to the Art of Yarn podcast. This episode we are going to be talking about other types of yarn besides just singles, two-ply, and ply. We're going to jump into it and start talking about cabled yarns. So cabled yarns are when you have here's a regular ply, two-ply yarn. I don't have a cabled yarn, so I'm going to make one really quick. And of course, can't find them. There's an end. So, there we go. So you have your two-plied yarn. Okay, this two-ply yarn. Focus on the yarn and not my face. I think you can kind of see it. So I'm going to apply twist. Twisting, 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 and then I would apply it with itself. So here's a itty bitty piece of cabled yarn that maybe, okay, it looks like yarn. It's cabled. Why would you want a cabled yarn? Why go through that extra work? It's for strength. So if plying adds a lot of strength, because when you twist fibers it gives it strength, if you remember all the way back to the first set of episode in the yarn series, it adds strength. So cabling, you're tripling that strength because you've got where you're plying it twice and then you're plying it on itself, so you've got a whole lot of extra strength. Think of things that you need strength for, like warp, rugs. You want a really hardy wearing yarn. Socks. You want, you put in a lot of time, you want it to last. So cabling is also great for rope and things like that. So basic cabled yarn. That's why you'd want a cable. Another yarn that is just a different way to ply is a knitted or a chained ply. So this is a chained ply, and it's called now it's called chain ply. It used to be called Adrian ply, like the Andes, but then I believe they realized it wasn't unique to the Andes. So trying to get a good, and it looks like a 3-ply yarn. So as you're making yarn, you may think, well, why do I want to do this? Well, if you look at this tiny ball, it makes really, when you have roving that's been painted in colors and you want to keep that color to make nice long gradient stripes, think of like Noro yarn. You can get a plied yarn by doing that, by spinning a single with these nice long yarns or gradients, and chaining it on itself is a really great way to give yourself strength, your yarn strength, while keeping found a piece, while keeping the color gradation. The one downside is, if you see that little like blurb between thin and the thicker on my middle finger there, that is actually, you're making a long crochet chain, like really long, and you're adding twist. So that was where there was a separation that happened to be also between size, but where that end of that chain started, and I was starting another part of the chain. So that's like the downside, which I like a textured yarn like that. I don't mind having a slight texture, especially in my hand spun. So in my non-hand spun, just it depends. You know, depends on the project. So another example, excuse me, gotta find all my examples, is this big lofty chain where you can see it's like an I-cord, a knitted I-cord. Let me get my hand covering my face, try and peek around to see if it's actually focusing. That is kind of squishes into a yarn. This one is nice and round, but you can also have knitted ribbon that's flat. And this is a knitted tube that's been flattened into a ribbon. And this is a Lion Brand Fast Track. So this is also a nice alternative. The nice thing with the knitted or chained is there's also stretch in the structure. If you think of your woven jeans versus like a knitted top, your knit top's super stretchy, and your jeans, especially if they're out of the dryer, they're tight, right? So as knitters, a lot of us like a stretchier, more elastic yarn. When you knit something, it doesn't pull down. And we'll get more into this with the difference in fibers. So when you have a nice stretchy yarn, it kind of holds in its place, and it's also easier to work with. It moves with the fabric. It's a stretchy fabric. It's a stretchy material. They're a bit more copacetic. I think that's the right term. Yeah. Anyway. On to... And then, I forgot. You can also have chained yarn. Remember this type of yarn? Fun fur. Oi. I'm going to make some weird Christmas thing out of this, I think. You can also, this is a chain with encased fibers in it. So, this has been chained, and then there's this fiber that's been chained into it and then cut to create this fringy, furry yarn. So chaining, you can do that type of stuff as well. This is different from chenille, which I also don't have an example of because I hate that stuff. I used to love it when I was first weaving, and then I worked with it some more, and it just worms its way out of structure. And then I learned the secret, and the secret is because what chenille yarn is, so if you look here, that's chenille yarn. That is hand woven chenille yarn, and that's right, chenille yarn is woven. So this is hand woven from September and October 1992. So, and it has an article for do-it-yourself chenille. So here you can see this is how chenille is made, and this is how it's made in factories as well. So you have these woven, you have your warp and your weft, and there's separation between your warp and your weft, and you cut through your warp to get a very dense warp as well. No, weft, excuse me. You cut through your weft, a dense weft, and you get chenille yarn. You can apply twists to make it more round. And I do have a sample from a woven piece that I do like because I took a weaving course, a little workshop or class, and learned the key is to weave it on a tight weave or knit it on a tight gauge. Tighter than you think, because you're actually working with the core of the yarn and not with what we perceive as the thickness. So here are the ends, and you can see the fluff is coming out. Hopefully you can see that. So here, I know it's a tiny fringe here. Here is an example, if I can get it, of the core and the fluff. So you want to set your dent or your gauge to that core and not the fluff, and then you won't get the worming. It's super soft, it's shiny, it's luxurious feeling. Like, I think everybody has a love affair with chenille at one point in their life. And then, like, some people get over it, like I got over it, and then other people, it's just their bag, and whatever. You know, I love wool, other people don't like wool. I also like working with weird and other fibers that people are like, oh, why do you like that? I'm like, oh, I'm weird. Alright, on to blue clay. So, blue clay yarn it's applied yarn, and it has plies upon plies. Let me show you what I think everybody thinks of when they first this is what most people think of when they're first introduced to blue clay. It uses a long wool, like this is mohair, and you have a core thread, your mohair thread. So this is like kind of like a 3-ply yarn and a binder thread. I have made blue clay like this much. It was like a little skein in a How to Spin novelty yarns, and it's fun. It's putsy, but it's fun. So you have these threads that create loops and create like a fun texture. Recently, Red Heart's been making a scrubby yarn, which is 100% polyester. So, and it's scrubby. It's made for making like pot scrubbies and things like that. So it has a texture, and this here, the blue clay, is it was a bigger circle, long enough to create a twist in the circle, in that loop. So it is a variation of a ply. It's an encased, it's like an encasement. Blah, blah, blah. There we go. It's an encasement. So there's things being encased. It's being wrapped around a single, and then the single is being plied with a yarn to help give it structure. With this, you can brush it. I don't have a yarn sample, but I have a woven piece on a woven piece of brushed, so see that halo of mohair brushed, so it creates a fluffy, fuzzy texture, and it adds warmth because that's also creating a lot of air pockets for warmth. Some other ply sample or variations are, let me pause. Another ply variation. This is a 2-ply yarn, but it looks quite different, right? So this is a cotton version. So this is a 2-ply yarn, but again, it's rickracky, it's lumpy, it's textured. Now how is that created? So normally when you ply things, you're plying at a 45-degree angle. If you change that angle, this is 45-degree angle. If you change that angle of your yarn, it'll start to create rickracks, because instead of twisting together equally, one starts to wrap around a bit more, and you're also changing the size of the yarn you ply the single with. So you have one big single and one small single to create that rickracky effect. It is super easy to do, and it is like the best like intro to making your own novelty yarn that isn't overspun like singles can get, especially when you're spinning and trying to figure it all out. Sorry, my head is like barely in frame. I'll just sneak down below. All right. Okay. So next. Yeah. So if you're learning how to spin and you want to get into novelty yarns, try just spinning a thin single or thread. You can use sewing thread. I like to use the serger thread that is meant for, it's called woolly, and it's nylon, and it's a little stretchier, and it's meant for oh, what is it meant for? For swimsuit material. So it's really great for knits, and it's also good for encasing because it's like stretchier and kind of fluffier, so it like spreads out a bit more. That stuff is really good for doing the like uneven 2-ply, I'll call it. And I know it has a proper term, like rickrack yarn. I've read it called. That's the one that comes up to my head right now. Hey, now my chin's not falling off the frame. That's exciting. Okay, so what's after that? There's so much. Okay, so there is core spun, and this is a core spun by the Spun Monkey Fiber Shop. I'm not sure if she's still in business. Go to the Spun Monkey and find out. But this is a beautiful core spun yarn that I actually bought. I really have to fall in love with a hand spun yarn because they're more expensive, rightfully so. There's a heck of a lot more work involved. Hey Jack, I'm getting distracted by a kitty. So a core spun yarn, trying to see, I think this will be a good, it's super fun to make. Do you see that angle of the yarn? It's a bit more severe than if this were a single. And I don't have a good single to show. Wah, wah. Because this one's been felted. And my cat is sleeping in my box and I don't want to disturb her. Cat parent issues. That and getting over to that area is a feat of heroism right now. Anyway, let me... God damn it. Alright, here we go. Haha. This isn't a single, it's a barber pole 2-ply. No! Sorry, my cat's tail moved my camera cord. So, do you see that ink? Hey, Jack. Alright, do you see that angle? Let me put them together, because that would be the smart thing to do. Alright, look at the difference in angle. This is getting closer to a 90 degree. And this is and the blue is closer to a 45 degree angle. Okay, this happens because, and it gets its name core, because it has a thread core in it, giving it added structure, and like some stability. Sometimes the core can be out of a non-traditional material. Like this is a metal core. So see how that holds? That has a steel core in it. The possibilities. Yeah, lots of fun possibilities with that. Materials are fun. Yeah, I'm a sculptor. We get super nerdy about materials. So, super nerdy. So, core spun, it gives it some added structure and allows you to show off more fiber. And it's loftier. There's more air trapped in it. So it's a little spongier. But there's a lot of structure there. So and it's softer. You're getting like the benefits of something maybe barely spun with the benefits of having ply core, with having ply, because there's a plied core in the center. You're also getting the downsides of having an unspun. That's been just sitting in my stash, and I can feel like when I separate, they're kind of felting and sticking together, which means I need to get my butt busy and use this, but I don't know what I want to use it on yet. It's just so beautiful. Okay. Another variation of a single, it could be anything, is actually a felted yarn. So yarn that is felted before you work on it. So this is I don't know what I did to the skein, number one. This is one of my like playing around, learning how to do novelty yarns and things like that yarn. And this has been felted. Oh, it is a skein. Kind of. Alright. And this has been, it's a single that has The single is the core, and it has sewing thread that has been wrapped around, and then I felted it. So in areas, you have these bigger loops where the yarn has shrunk quite a bit. And the benefit is it hangs straight. So you have a single, the look of a single without the energy of a single. And there's extra strength that's already been felted. It's not going to want to felt on itself now, because once you start felting going, felt doesn't really want to stick to felt. You can do pre-felt where you felt it just a little bit and then it'll still stick to each other, but after it gets past a certain point, it doesn't want to felt to anything else unless you use needle felting, but I'm talking as in reference to wet felting. So, alright, on to like non-woven and woven. We already talked about chenille, which is woven. That has less stretch. Same with this ribbon yarn that is woven. This is from Saris. This is the selvage. So this is just woven strips of fabric cut into strips. This is waste from Mills. So if you're in an area with a lot of fashion designers, you can go and talk to them about their waste and maybe get some of their fabric, cut it into strips with a rotary cutter, and there you go. Make yourself some stuff. A lot of people use strips of fabric to weave rag rugs. You can knit with it. With woven fabric, it will fray, which is really hard to see with the silk. Where was that blob of fray? Okay, here. Nope. You know, here you are. So it'll fray like there, which you can use to your advantage, or if you find that irritating, cut up some knit fabrics. You can cut up some polar fleece. This is some polar fleece. Cut it into big strips and knit with it. It is knit fabric. It won't fray. It's stretchy. Knit fabric doesn't fray. Woven fabric will. It's up to you. You can always cut woven fabric on a bias and then it'll have stretch and it'll fray less. The others are so this is a paper yarn. So not really sure the structure on this particular paper yarn. Some paper yarns are just cut pieces of paper that a high quality paper like mulberry paper. I've made paper yarn and applied twist to it, so it's closer to a single, and it adds a lot of structure. That added twist. I don't have that sample available right now, so because I had this one. This one is a paper yarn. And it's made out of cotton. This is by Habu. Habu has a lot of interesting yarns. They make a metal core spun yarn, like that black cone that I showed you. They make this yarn, which is a paper based. I believe it looks like there's like a chain or something happening in it for some added strength, but it's flat like a ribbon. Sorry, my hand is shaking, so I'm having a hard time getting it in focus. Alright. It may be a non-woven material structure. If you think of the reusable bags, this is a non-woven material. I've seen this material encased in yarn, or you can cut it up, use it like a yarn. I think I have seen it in the past as a yarn. So that's almost closer to how paper is made. The other, like, non-woven, this is reflective yarn. So what you're seeing it reflect, it'll flash even more. So this is like reflective tape, but in yarn, in a fine yarn. This is 70% glass, polyester, resin, and aluminum. How fun is that? Alright, but it feels like yarn. So, because it's like the reflective tape. And it is like a non-woven twisted material cut into fine strips. The other kind, this is a plied yarn, or it has a twist to it. Actually, it might have a core. I can't remember. Hang on. This might be a version of a core actually spun. Focus on it. Focus, not on my greasy hair. There we go. So metallic is plastic that's been cut. Metallicized plastic that's been cut into strips, and the strips have been spun around a core with a binder thread wrapped around that. They come in different types of structures. It's hard to see, but it is not your like stereotypical 2-ply yarn. So I'm going to have to make some crinkles. It's another metallic. This is sold by Giovanna Import. Same with the reflect yarn. And this is a metallic yarn that's just really, really well done. So it's also a core. It's really hard to see. Alright. It's hard to see in person, so. And it's a core with plastic, like a plastic twisted around it. So. And where did I get this information? Well, similar places to last time. Remove my notes. The chenille, if you want to make your own chenille, this is handwoven from September to October 1992. Has how to make your own chenille. This is all about pile. So all the fabrics with a nap to it, like corduroy, velvet, raya, think of like rugs with the big, like shag rugs, think of that. For novelty yarns, Pluckyfluff has some wonderful books on that subject. So this was her first book, and she printed this herself, so it's quite pricey. So Handspun Revolution, if this is still, I will link to the sources again. If this is still available, I'll put it up, but it's a $40 book, and it's quite thin in comparison to her second publication. I believe she made a third, I don't own it, called Intertwined, where she goes into more like art yarn techniques, works with other artists, and also has some projects. And this has information on core spun and all of that as well. These are a bit more how-to. Another great art yarn book is Spin Art by Jacey Boggs, another pretty well-known art yarn artist, yarn artist, especially if you're into that. So here's, here's about core spun. And this book has a DVD attached with it as well. So if you're not good at learning from learning from reading, it has video as well. So here's a good picture of a cabled yarn. So she talks about cabled yarn in it as well. If you want to get further in depth with yarn structure and how things work, the Intentional Spinner is a really great resource, which I mentioned last time, because it's spinning with like, okay, I need this yarn to work for this project. What yarn should I make? So that's really good information to know, so you know also what yarn to pick. And then this spin-off has cabled, ply right, and about plying, how much twist add, master cable, wrap and roll, things, fun things like that. Like this one's, that's, And this is spin-off from, let's see how old, spring 2008. It's a little old. Not as old as the 1992, but still good information. All right, so that is it for this info session. I'll be blabbering on about my other stuff and using a lot more ums. So if you're not interested in the other stuff, I will see you guys next time when we're talking about fibers, and how they can, and their properties and different materials properties. That'll be fun. More books. Like I said before, I get super nerdy about this stuff, so if you're sticking around to hear about things that I've finished knitting and some Christmas goodies that I got, and lots of ums and uhs and so and yeahs, and don't make a drinking game out of that, because it won't be good. Just saying. Okay, so those of you who are sticking around, good for you. For putting up with the so, and the so's. Christmas. It was a lot busier than I thought. I made myself do a lot. I like baked. I made like 14 different sweets and things to give to people, like jams and cookies and candies and fruitcake and a whole bunch. I made pillowcases for a lot of people, and I forgot my husband's pillowcase. I was going to show you guys. I could run and get it. Maybe I'll do that in a bit. And I made stuff for my parents and that I already have packed up. I made them stockings for when they come to visit us at Christmas. That way Santa can bring them stuff in their stockings. You know. And fill them with goodies. And they were... Oh no! Oh, books are gonna fall. Oh, books are gonna fall. Okay. Okay, yarn can fall. Okay, let's move that. So my... Throwing shit on the ground. Alright. I didn't want stuff to fall. My cat's like, Mom, you're making so much noise. Yeah. Okay. So, I actually got stuff done. I finished things. I made my husband a hat. This is out of Yarn Geek. Let me get the tag. Yarn Geek fibers in her Maven DK base. And this is in the colorway Marine Biology or Sylvia Early. I'm gonna put them up here. And so I made this for my husband. It is tangy and silk, so it's super soft and warm. He has no body heat. I have all the body heat for everybody in the house, pretty much. And I just I found this stitch pattern in a pattern book and like different stitch pattern books, you know. And then I just made up the hat shape as I went. It does come to a little bit of point because of how I haven't blocked it, so just because of the stitch repeat and how I had to put it on. I don't wear these type of hats because I have a very narrow head and they're not flattering on my body. But he loves it. It looks good on him. See how it comes with a little point there? Yeah, I want to block that out. But he loves it. He was wearing it all week. It has actually been like chilly here in Texas. Or chilly. For Texans, it's like frigid. For transplants from the north to Texas, it's winter. Kinda. It's like fall. Late fall. Yeah, it was like 30 degrees and everyone's like, oh my god, it's so cold. We're dying. And I'm like, oh, I'm finally comfortable. This is great. The 80 degrees I can barely handle, so whatever. It's whatever you're used to. And I finally finished the Walk in the Woods shawl. So here it is. It's super warm. It needs to be blocked. I guess I could just, roll back so you guys can see it. That would make sense. And really fun pattern to knit. Knits up quick. Especially when you like work on it and don't work on like 50 other things at once. Yeah. So, I was using, my yarn was a bit thicker. It's more of an Aran weight than a worsted weight. It's like a heavier worsted. And I barely had enough yarn to, because I like to try and get as much shawl out of yarn as possible, because it's more, a bigger shawl is more proportionate to my body. So I had to like split splice blah, 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 in the bind off, which is not good to do. I had like 3 stitches. I ran out of yarn for binding off, and I'm like, you know what, I just want to be done. I'm just gonna split splice with some of the ends, and yeah. So that's what I did. And it's done. It just needs to be blocked. So it's nice. I think I'm planning on kitting for color kits. Let me know in the comments below, or shoot me an email or whatever, because I was thinking of doing this one with my yarn. This isn't my yarn, I just dyed it. But with my yarn, which would fit the pattern better. So, let me go get pillowcase. Okay, I remembered some yarns too. Alright. So, I haven't worked on art in a while, and I feel like I'm going crazy. I need to work on some artwork. Anyway, so this is my husband's pillowcase. He likes tech, and it's binary code and a motherboard. He loves it, so that's all that matters. I'm happy with it. He sleeps on it, and I'm sure dreams of electric sheep. Alright, so I got some awesome stuff for Christmas. My mom found this book, like, for like half price, or she found it used, which used books are great. And it's No Idle Hands, America's, the social history of America's knitting. And I'm super excited to read this because I'm sure it's full of feminism and knitting and yarn, and you can't get any better than that. So, super excited, and history. Like, things I love. So, really excited to read this. Women's work. Really excited. So, but I have some other books I need to finish first. Then I'm going to start that. My parents went to Italy, and they went to a lace maker, and he got a bookmark, handmade bookmark, and it's gorgeous. Look at that beautiful lace. Love handmade textiles. So I'm going to use that to read my American knitting book. Although I'll probably like save that and just use toilet paper, like a little piece of toilet paper or like a receipt or something. That's what I normally use for bookmarks. So, yeah. It's like, oh, here's this random piece of paper bookmark. I was at the Blaffer Museum in Houston. It's a contemporary art museum. And they were having a mega sale on their older catalogs. So I got like 90% off of catalogs. Super excited. So this is one of Francesca Dimattio. I believe I'm saying that right. She's a ceramicist. And I'm really excited to learn more about her and her process and her work because I'm a sucker for textures and pattern. So I'm really excited about that. Got this little one by Jon Pylypchuk. I'm not sure how to say his name. So, horrible with names. Like I'll hear names and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to look them up, and then I forget names and artists. I'm actually better with recognizing work than I am with a name. And his stuff looks like it's full of magical creatures, which I'm all down for. So I'm really excited to read more about Jon here, because I can say your first name, Jon. And then Katrina Moorhead's, I'm not sure how the cover got greasy, but it got greasy. But only the cover did. Anyway, Katrina Moorhead is a sculptor. She used to be a professor of mine for a while. So, excited to read more about her work. She works more conceptually, but also uses some similar materials that I use. I liked her as a professor, so. Anywho, that's exciting. And then I was at Half Price Books with, my husband went through our board game collection, and he went through the stuff that we don't really play, or like it's just one person that wants to play it and no one else wants to play it, like those games. So, and we, take them to Half Price Books, get some money back and stuff. And I found Radical Lace and Subversive Knitting. Subversive. So this is all about different artists that use textile techniques. Like Sheila Pepe. It's a big name. There's some big names in here. Here's Sheila Pepe's work. So that's all crochet. And it's more about the space she creates than it actually being about crochet. So, I'm trying to think of, find some of the bigger ones. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that person. And of course, well, anyway, It's a really interesting book. Here's Dave Cole. He does like the massive knits using like, you know, like if you put testosterone and knitting together, there you go. Kind of a thing. So I'm excited to read more about that. Got tiny knits, big knits. And yeah. One thing that's really weird about this book, and this could be why it was at Half Price Books, was like it's printed really weird. What? So it's like a folded piece of paper is like a page. So it's like really weird to flip through. It feels really weird in the hand. This is just like totally off track, but you know, there you go. But super excited about that show to read more about, past show. And then I found this like textbook of the primary structures of fabrics. I'm like super excited to read this. I'm not being sarcastic. So yeah, this is exciting for me, especially when I can find them at Half Price Books for like, you know, a fraction of the price or on sale. This one, it only has the British price, so I'm not exactly sure how much it was off because I'm not sure the conversion rate. But this one was $20 and then this one was $10. So if you live near Half Price, or you can check their website if you've been looking for these books. So, alright, last bit. This is coffee fueled, Kyla. Normally I'm more of a tea person. Coffee gets me a little too jittery. Where tea, it's like a nice caffeine boost. Where coffee, I'm like, yeah. All right. So, been dyeing some yarn. Not much. Trying to do like a couple colorways a week. And some of these yarns I need to fix some spots. I just need to dye some yarn. So I just took the yarn before I added extra choke ties and checked the ties that were put in by the mill. The ties were a little tight, so there's some spots on here that I don't like. This is an older colorway of mine. My new base. So this is my Observe base, and it is my Superwash Merino DK. It has a whole bunch of elasticity in it. It is a 3-ply, and I need to contact the mill. I need to weigh it and contact the mill to find out how much yardage, because I forgot to do that, and it's not on their website. But it is a lovely yarn. And I'm not getting good color. This is a violet. It is purple. It is violety purple, deep violety purple. It's coming off more navy blue on my screen. This was just my sample skein to see how it dyed up. Very happy with it, so I ordered more skeins. But it is a very nice yarn. I love that mill. They do a wonderful job. More yarn from the mill on my Relax base. These I just like shoved in my dye pot and didn't add extra choke ties like I normally do, so they're a bit more wily. So hopefully, same color. You can see it's still coming off rather blue, but this is my, so see those spots, I need to fix those. This is why you shouldn't just like get going. This is why you should check things before you start dyeing. This is my, I can't think, Silence Glaive yarn. So my Sailor Saturn inspired yarn. It's a whole bunch of dark, deep bluey purples, warm purples, in like deep colors, mid-tone to deep color. Bright. So it's like rich, like it's a rich purple. It's really, I'm sorry, this camera is not the best for color. This is another one of my favorite colorways. This is Dead Scream. So my Sailor Pluto colorway. So it is deep, like blackened teal, huntery teal, deep hunter or burgundy, blackened burgundy, and some blackened like grayish, deep gray, and some black areas. And this is a non-superwash wool, worsted wool. So this is my Relax Warm. I need to photograph these and hopefully I'll get them up on Etsy soon and photograph them in proper lighting. So, trying to work on other stuff too, regarding my business. These two are the same color, just different size yarns. They're all 3-ply. This is Relax Light and this is Relax Warmth. So, and this is a teal that I had this green that I'm like, I don't know, don't really like it. It's just kind of like meh to me. And so I overdyed it with, I'm like, oh, I'll just make it like kind of like a deep huntery tealy. I'll see what color comes out, you know. And I like this. This is pretty. But it's more of a one of a kind because it's overdyed. So what I have is what I have of it. But I have it in 2 sizes, 4 skeins of each. And I love my Relax base. I think a lot of people see non-superwash and get intimidated when there's no reason to be intimidated. It's a wonderful yarn. Sometimes you need like if you're doing Fair Isle, you're better off using a non-superwash wool. It's stickier, it's going to stay in place. Yeah. You know, each fiber has their place. So, yep, I'm going to stop rambling because this is going to be a long video. This is why I need to update more. Yeah. Long pause instead of more ums. Okay. I will talk to you guys later. Next episode, we'll be talking about fibers. I need to write up notes and figure out in what order. I'll probably start with the protein fibers, so aka animal fibers that people really enjoy, then cellulose fibers, and ending with man-made fibers because yes. And then after that, I was planning on talking about different fabrics. So materials are fun. All right. See you guys later.